Oh, cool.
Hey, what's up everybody? Daniel here from Never Enough Tech. Back at home, waiting for my new workspace to get a roof. We'll keep an eye on it. So this is the channel's second year. To keep this little thing we got red hot, I've been exploring different angles for soundbar reviews. So gonna steer away from those preening, overstuffed flagship bars on this one and oversee a fight. Well, that's not new for me, but in a lighter weight class. 3.1 channel punchers under $600. The contenders? Klipsch Cinema 600, MSRP's at $499, but I somehow got it for $399, very lucky timing. And the Sony HT-G700, MSRP's at $599, bought it for $599. The Cinema 600, released July 2020, falls in the middle of the latest generation soundbar line, which includes the Cinema 400 and the yet-to-be-released Cinema 600 5.1, 800, and 1200, which tops out at a 1200-watt 5.1.4 channel system. Gotta say, looking forward to that one, already pre-ordered, expecting it March or April. Though I wouldn't call it a flagship, the 600 is actually the highest tier Klipsch bar you can buy at the time of this recording. The remaining models are expected in the March-April timeframe, fingers crossed. The Klipsch 600 replaced the Klipsch Bar 48. Let's say the Cinema 600 change is significant but closer to incremental than revolutionary. The HT-G700, released May 2020, is a middle-tier Sony soundbar based on price and channel count, but Sony only has two higher-tier models. The HT-Z9F, a more premier $300 more 3.1 soundbar kit with the option to expand to 5.1 with a rear speaker pack, and the HT-SC5000, I'm going to get to that one in a separate video one of these days. I ultimately went with the G700 because I want price parity with the Cinema 600. I have not yet reviewed a soundbar from either Klipsch or Sony, but my spidey sense tells me that this is not way off a championship, okay, maybe top 10 matchup for best soundbar sound value under $600. I'm also looking to help those looking for a quality budget-friendly soundbar without surrounds. Maybe surrounds add too much complexity, clutter, cost, and/or sound elements you don't find appealing. Maybe sound sneaking up behind you is distracting, creepy, or something like that. Fair warning, this video will not be really short. I tend to provide a lot of detail with timestamps, I'm not a criminal, so maybe hydrate, grab a snack, and hide from your family. Before I jump in, as always, check the description for clarifications and corrections. Though the bokeh on my sparkle trees are perfect, delicious, got a new lens, my videos sometimes aren't. Throw up the scoreboard and give Klipsch a point for being cheaper. Klipsch.
Pips.
Design and build. Klipsch. Gotta give it to them. They took a bar that, let's say, is almost all plastic and kinda made it look like there is no plastic, if giving it just a passing glance. The majority of the bar is wrapped in a slightly faded black cloth. You'll find it predominantly displayed on the front, top, back, and bottom. The cloth doesn't feel exceptionally robust, so when your toddler runs with scissors right into the center channel, well, you're gonna have a big hole there. With the right light, you can get glimpses of the drivers hiding behind the curtain. You'll find the Klipsch reference logo on the bottom left. There is a bit of reflectivity to it, so it's susceptible to some glare if the light is angled just so. This is a minor detail, but don't blind me with your sporking logo, Klipsch. I'm trying to watch TV. The linear suspension tweeters inside these tractric horns on the ends give this bar a very distinctive look amongst all soundbars, but a very familiar look amongst the Klipsch product line. These horns are visually defined with 4 triangles recessing in, with the tweeter very visibly tucked right in the center. The casing does plausibly look of metal, but it's essentially all plastic. You'll find some metal veneer graining on the top of the tweeter housings, with some bar controls and a display on the right side, and removable dark wood veneer caps on the bar's ends. The right cap is hiding ports that I will discuss later. The left cap comes off because it felt left out. You'll find the ports in the back and a single rather deep cutout that does extend to the bottom of the bar. On the bottom of the bar, virtually all surface area is covered in fabric, no rubber feet. Overall, the Cinema 600 looks bold due to the exposed tweeters, but stately. Klipsch is not giving you a nebulous modern art piece. It needs to match this handsome dude. The build quality falls much closer to acceptable than exceptional. Really nothing to hang your hat on to give it an edge materials-wise. Not giving the largely synthetic wood end cap a big shout out. More of a good try. The sub is more or less a wooden box on 4 little legs with beveled edges, and is stained to match the bar end caps. The driver is facing downwards, The power port and sync buttons are located on the back. You'll find the logo on the bottom left. I think it's kind of a handsome piece. The graining, staining, and tapered edges take some of the visual edge off, giving it a warm feel. Nakamichi didn't bother doing any of this with their 2 wood box monoliths on the Shockwave Ultra. The sub build quality is pretty good, especially for the price. It is satisfying to know that real wood is being used. Sony. Well, the HT-G700 by comparison seems to go all grayscale normcore, with a black plastic casing and gray metal grille. The rounded edges and corners and the grille cascading just a bit to the sides and top gives the bar a bit of a friendly personality that can easily go missing with black suit standard issue soundbar designs. The plastic casing here is given some character through its texture. Normally you'll find just smooth, matte, or glossy plastic, perhaps with a faux metal graining. The texture here makes it a bit more tactile and more interesting to physically interact with, which is something you will do when pressing bar buttons, commenters. There is some quirkiness in the back with the port cutouts. The connectivity ports are placed at an angle. You never know where a bar wants to let its freak flag fly. All this being said, there is nothing terribly remarkable nor disappointing about the bar build and style. It checks a box. The G700 sub, while very common in dimensions and finish, has some unique properties. The main airflow valve is massive and on the front, per usual coated in a glossy material. The driver is also forward-facing and is covered by the same metal grille material as you'll find on the bar. It seems a bit like a design decision gone wrong, but let's just keep that between us. The sub casing, I'm not entirely sure, probably MDF. You'll find buttons, ports, and heat vents in the back. I think overall, Klipsch wins in build quality because of the sub. The Klipsch bar also takes a bit of a chance on design. That is, people will much more likely comment on your Klipsch bar than your Sony bar, though it's not totally clear whether the comment will be positive. I'm guessing mostly positive. Gonna give Klipsch a point here because of the sub quality and for not being highly generic while staying grounded. Can you say Klipsch?
Pips.
Setup. Luckily it's just plug and play. Plug in the bar and the sub, connect the TV to your preferred port, and play content. Using an HDMI connection, both my TV remotes control the bar volume right away. Each system gets a point. Connectivity ports. Klipsch. Per usual, you have your primary TV to bar connection, which is just regular old audio return channel, or ARC. No eARC, along with no pass-through. So uncompressed multi-channel audio simply can't squeeze itself onto the bar. The pipes are too thin. Moving on, you'll also find, if you look close, an optical connection. There you are. Want to plug something old into the bar? You'll find a 3.5mm aux port. And a weirdo but a fun one, a single channel RCA out to run a second powered sub if too much bass is not a thing. Or maybe you just want to replace the kit sub. Works too. If you're detective-like, you'll find 2 more connections behind the wood cap on the right side. A USB service port and a wireless module port for connecting your surround 3 speakers. As I mentioned, Klipsch should be releasing the Cinema 600 5.1 in the next few months. If you want surrounds but think buying them separately is dumb. Beneath you, something only other people would do. Sony. Well, the G700 gives you eARC, so you can pump uncompressed audio through the TV, assuming your TV is also eARC enabled. On top of this, you get a single HDMI pass-through that will handle your uncompressed audio if your sad sack TV does not support eARC. What? There is some sad sackery there with just ARC. I'm not your mom. The pass-through supports up to 4K 60 frames per second with HDCP 2.2 support, and yes, this bar is Dolby Vision compatible. You also have your legacy optical connection if your TV, for instance, is 1,000 years old, or if you have some ancient audio source component for which you have warm feelings. You'll find a USB port for service update purposes only, not for music playback, and no aux input, just digital connections on the bar. 2 points for Sony here for supporting eARC and the pass-through. It makes this bar much more flexible. Can you say Sony?
Sony.
Speaker array. As mentioned, both are 3.1 systems. Klipsch is a 600-watt system, explains the name, but doesn't want to clarify how the max power is distributed amongst the bar and subwoofer. In any case, for the bar, each of the channels get their due respect in terms of drivers. The left and right channels are a tweeter woofer pair, like you find on a traditional bookshelf speaker, so your very visible tweeter on the ends, and the woofer companion hiding behind the fabric. Just a note on the funny looking ends, though hard to believe, the design is not only aimed at winning a point in my design and build category, it's advertised as a key component to bringing integrity, clarity, and precision to the sound. These technologies are used in all of Klipsch's products, save the headphones and subwoofers. The center channel is a dual woofer tweeter trio, which is consistent with most flagship SoundBar center channels. So you got 7 drivers divided amongst the 3 bar channels, and the .1 from the 10-inch subdriver. The G700 is a 700 watt system. The bar has just 3 full-range woofers, 4 fewer than the 600. Keep that in mind. So just a single woofer only for the left, center, and right channel. The subwoofer has a 6-inch driver, the smallest I've reviewed so far. Really seems Sony has a hill to climb, but I won't assign points. I'll hold off until I discuss sound quality. Choo-chooing along, supported audio formats. Klipsch. You get Dolby decoding up to 5.1 channels, Dolby True HD, uncompressed surround, any kind of Atmos or even Dolby Digital Plus, Netflix style 5.1 are not supported in their full glory. You just kinda get the lossy Dolby 5.1 kernel embedded in these formats. Klipsch tells me you get LPCM support all the way up to 7.1, so you are theoretically ready for your Apple TVs and gaming consoles. You are not able to get full uncompressed LPCM via an ARC port, as I've been told in the past, or optical connection, so what you end up receiving will be compressed or lessened to some degree. I think exactly how this is handled may be idiosyncratic to your streaming source and TV. Audio from my Apple TV and Switch filtered through my LG C9 with eARC and my Sony X800G without eARC played fine. All channels were utilized. No cutouts or other unfortunate circumstances. Though I suspect when routed through the Sony TV, the 600 received a PCM 2.0 signal and upmixed it to 3.1. Honestly, it's a little bit difficult to discern. One thing that is clear is that my Apple TV volume output at the same TV volume setting is considerably weaker than the Smart TV Dolby signal. Viewers, I welcome your comments. Klipsch Tech Support, after significant prodding, gave me this response, which I'm not totally confident in, but here it is. Multi-channel LPCM is supported by the 600, but it also depends on the customer's TV. As long as their ARC port is HDMI 2.1, then it'll send LPCM to the bar just fine. So Klipsch is claiming as long as your ARC port is HDMI 2.1, you can get LPCM in its full glory, eARC or no eARC. DTS is not supported. You will need to fiddle with either your TV or Blu-ray player settings to make sure the audio is being recoded to Dolby. If you don't, well, you get a somewhat dissatisfying interpretation of the audio signal. Maybe a personal taste, but I find the sound to be a little scratchy. Unfortunately, I see no sign of a promised software update to bring DTS support to the Cinema 600 at this time. With Sony, you get the kitchen sink, as well as all the LPCMs, all the Dolbys, all the DTSSs, Atmos, DTSX, name it, it's yours. Sony obviously wins really big here, 2 points. Can you say Sony?
Sony.
But wait, back up. What in the G's is Sony thinking claiming they can support 3D audio with 3 little woofers? Now, you don't technically need upward firing speakers for 3D audio certification. I think Nakamichi did the best job of it with no upward firing speakers, but you know, they had 9 channels and 18 different drivers surrounding you and had the option to point some of them up. So Sony is straining their credibility here, but these companies always come in with a defense. Sony in this case touts their proprietary surround and vertical effects virtualization technology. For surround effects, Sony touts its S-Force Pro front surround technology and their vertical surround engine technology for vertical effects. Sony is claiming it can simulate up to 7.1.2 with as little as stereo input. So really truly big promises here from Sony. Sony has some engineering chops for sure, but we'll see where their spatial audio falls in the snake oil to magic continuum. Bar displays. Klipsch. You got 2 of them. One Klipsch wants you to see on the front in between the center and right channel, and the other one they would rather you not see on the top right. I think it's probably a fitness initiative because a proper squat should raise you just enough to see that bar on the top. The front-facing display is very Vizio-esque, being just a series of 10 LED dots, though laid out horizontally in this case. The first dot changes color based on input, and the rest of the dots provide cues about sound level. The top display gives you 5 indicators. Input, completely redundant with the indicator on the front. A Dolby indicator that illuminates if a Dolby audio signal is detected, normally reserved for very fancy 3D audio detection, so a little low rent. A surround mode indicator. Dialogue mode indicator. There are 4 levels, off, and 3 on levels of varying intensity. This indicator illuminates if one of these 3 on levels are selected. And last, a night mode indicator. Both displays, which always match in brightness, can be adjusted to bright, dim, and dim but off after inactivity. A nice touch to a weird display situation. Sony has a traditional display in the upper part of the grille, in between the center and left channel. The display seems rather pixel-rich as far as soundbar displays go, but at the same time the characters are kind of small. The display will scroll if more than 5 characters are presented. The display does tell you if you're listening to 3D audio like Atmos, and the dimming and auto shutoff options are the exact same as the Klipsch. Jinx. Sony gets a point here for not putting a display with critical information on top of the bar. I mean, how do a significant number of people agree to put a display in a position that is not visible to the user where they normally position themselves? No, seriously, this is a puzzle I have been unable to solve. Can you say Sony?
Sony.
On bar controls, Klipsch. We got physical clickety-clackety buttons. You got power, source, and volume up and down. For Sony, you have capacitive buttons including power, input, Bluetooth, largely for pairing, and volume. So this is a pet peeve of mine. Why do these bars never give you track control? It is not out of the realm of possibility that you would walk by the bar and want to pause or skip a track. Why do these soundbar companies hate you so much? Question for another day. Sound adjustments. Klipsch comes in a little light. Besides general volume, you got sub-volume. You can adjust surround sound effects. With that surround on amps up the left and right tweeters and does a decent job of ruining the sound if that's what you're after. When surrounds are paired, pressing the surround button will toggle the surround volume. You have a dialogue mode, which when turned on gives you 3 intensity levels to choose from. I typically choose intensity 1. And you have a night mode. Normally this mode caps the loud noises and ups the really soft noises so you can hear the soft whispers while keeping your volume low, so it compresses the sound amplitude. This night mode, however, the implementation seems to just completely remove the bass as opposed to softening it. So amplitude on the higher tones seems like it's left unchanged, but the lowest tones are filtered out. Kind of a ham-handed implementation. I may be interpreting it wrong, but this is what it sounds like to me. Sony gives you more sound shaping options. The big sound changer is the immersive audio effects option. This virtually upscales the source to sound as though it's 7.1.2. Okay, dude, so just to clarify, 10-channel sound with just 4 drivers. Wouldn't want to be Sony's lawyer here. Other than adjusting bass volume, you don't have any manual EQ settings. Instead, you have standard cinema and music presets. In the manual, they use the terminology like vivid and glossy. Not the adjectives I'm looking for, but those might be your ASMR trigger words. You can choose auto that will pick the best sound mode for you based on your audio source. You'll find a dialogue enhancement on-off and night mode on-off. I'll give Sony a point here because it sounds like at least they tried, and also their night mode seems to act more standard. But where can a dude find some decent manual EQ controls?
Sony, yay!
Wireless connectivity. You won't find Wi-Fi on either of these bars. You do get a really underwhelming Klipsch app that connects via Bluetooth. The website is a bit misleading in what the app can do, like advanced EQ controls shown here. Nothing like this is supported yet. It's an app in progress, though it does handle firmware updates, which I will grudgingly admit is useful. But beyond the limited to no app control, no Wi-Fi means no voice assistance, no Chromecast, nor AirPlay. Klipsch gets 0.75 points, which I'm going to round up to 1, with the promise of a useful app and being able to execute firmware updates over the air. So you can say Klipsch.
Poops.
Both systems support Bluetooth. The Cinema 600 up to aptX, so you're better off with an Android phone there. Sony, you got SBC and AAC. No Sony super special lossless LDAC, unfortunately, like you'll find on the 2 higher-end soundbar models. Each get a point for supporting Bluetooth, but there's definitely some participation trophy action happening here. Remotes, Klipsch. This is not a universal remote, it just controls the bar. You can control the bar with your TV remote, most easily achieved with the ARC connection. The Klipsch remote feels fairly solid, as these remotes tend to go, with a hint of a rubber surface with rubber buttons. It has a bit of weight to it, feels good in the hand, and has a visual signature to it. It also has a very sensitive motion sensor. The slightest remote movement will illuminate the buttons. It's a very light sleeper. I think that's what you want. You execute all the sound adjustments I discussed with these buttons here. You can turn the bar on and off, adjust display brightness, quickly choose source, play, pause if playing a Bluetooth source, but no track control. And this is weird, reset sub-level with a 3-second hold on this button. Is Klipsch so afraid a user might accidentally reset the sub volume they need to put extra security on it? Sony, can you pass Klipsch the freak flag? The Sony remote feels like a toy and looks like they found the boringest person alive and told them to make a cheap remote. High level, you have quick selections to EQ presets and sub-levels. Use these buttons to mess with some lesser settings, including checking on firmware and controls for updating your firmware. The Klipsch remote is higher quality, illuminates, and is easier to use. 1 point. Can you say Klipsch?
Nah.
Expandability, Klipsch. You have the option to add 2 wireless surrounds, the surround 3s to be precise, to enhance the 600 to a 5.1 channel system, enabling native playback of Dolby 5.1 content. I ordered the surround 3s, but their delivery has taken a frustrating amount of time, and I don't feel like waiting around anymore. I'll aim for a shorter follow-up review with the full 5.1 setup. Aim is not a promise. And as I mentioned, you can add a wired powered sub using the bar's RCA port to get up to a 5.2 channel system. I tend to think 2 subs might be pushing it a bit on this system, but it's an option. Or you can replace the kit sub with your existing amazing powered sub. If you're looking to stay in the Klipsch family, the R100SW at $299 will be your cheapest powered sub option. I reviewed it, it sounded great with Klipsch's powered bookshelf speakers. You can find the review up here somewhere. The G700 can't grow, not even if you pour water on it. 1 point for Klipsch, leaving the option open to invest over time if you so choose. Maybe you choose 2 points. I can't stop you.
Cinema 600.
Cinema 600.
One day this will all be yours.
What happened this morning?
Oh, what didn't? I woke up, I had a massive cramp in my foot, so I hobbled downstairs to get a banana and I stubbed the toe on my other foot. Literally, it's a miracle I'm here. What's up?
We had a meeting at 9 with Goodyear.
Well, no one told me.
I sent a dozen invites to your calendar.
Sound quality, Klipsch. I think overall the sound is pretty darn impressive. I mean, especially for the price. It really feels like it stays in its lane as a 3.1 system. It doesn't try to trick you into thinking there are speakers all around you with weird EQing or phasing. I think this is good, maybe you think this is boring. I suggest framing the 600 as a really great TV sound enhancer rather than a simplified home theater setup. I frame it this way because, as with the TV, you are not getting lots of atmospherics coming from you at every direction. Instead, you're getting a fairly direct sound reproduction coming at you from the front. But I say enhancer because it gives you a much wider frequency range at a much higher volume with limited distortion, with much higher fidelity. I did find at times the dialogue did benefit from a dialogue boost. I often kept it on, but at the first level. This mode did not seem to throw the sound out of balance. I listened to a few reviews on this product after forming my own opinions, but one of my favorite comments was that it sounds like these speakers were tuned by humans, not computers.
The Cinema 600 sounds like it was actually designed by human beings with ears.
Klipsch does maintain a kind of old school flat tuning, as is Klipsch's mission. The benefit is relatively strong mid-frequencies. Personal preference, but I tend to look negatively on soundbars that sacrifice mid-frequency clarity and volume for more punchy sounding bass and surround spatial effects. While these tuning decisions do tend to make the system more stimulating, it does seem to come at the peril of high quality sound. The fewer the drivers you have to work with, 4 in this case, the more severe this trade-off becomes. The Cinema 600 is not seeking strong spatial elevation effects, so perhaps the urge to overprocess the sound just isn't there. Though I did miss some of that channel separation and spatial audio in really great soundtracks like John Wick and Mad Max. With soundtracks like these, you really want to hear that one crunch or whizzing saw or rain sound super isolated and expertly placed in space. I suppose this is what happens when you omit surround channels and don't bother supporting 3D audio. I did find myself often listening to the Cinema 600 gleefully as opposed to dutifully. In a song like Lost in the Light by Bahamas, the guitar riffs sound surprisingly rich, taking turns in the spotlight with a steady, meaty bass rhythm. Sounds very natural. The bass performance is pretty darn good, blends well with the bar, surprisingly precise, maybe doesn't stop on a dime, but let's say nickel. Admirable attack and agility. In Hardest to Love by The Weeknd, the synthesizers, bass, and vocals blend delightfully. But this song has some crackly, crispy atmospherics that are supposed to reverberate and linger. This bar doesn't execute on that part exceedingly well. This bar creates surprisingly good sound, but it plays as though to some degree that it's in a sound-dampened room. It lacks a certain carbonation you might want from time to time. I do test in a smaller space. A larger room would serve this bar well. This bar works for casual and party listening. I'm pretty sure that's not a young person approved phrase. The bar can get loud, but I want to say the sound profile, soundstage, the direct nature of the sound makes me want to save this bar for personal or small group use. I'm not going to dance around this. I didn't feel like Sony delivered on the big promise of spatial effects. I'm sure I'm being a little bit cynical here, but much of their strategy seemed to be take high frequency sounds, blow it out a little bit, make it a little bit overwhelming, which will hopefully give the impression that it's coming from up high. I never really sensed any precise sound virtualization in the back. That was a complete wash. Turning on spatial virtualization options did lead to bigger, more room-filling sound, not precisely located sound. This is a nice trick for a 3-woofered bar, but something less than what 3D audio codecs promise. I know I got it backwards, but I feel like I can't really establish a warm relationship with a bar if I don't want to listen to music on it. This did not make my music-friendly list. I listened to music on the Sony dutifully. The sound profile sounded too bright for me, and the sound body came across as thin and unbalanced. I'd switched the song from the Cinema 600 to the G700, and my wife happened to be sitting next to me. And let me make this perfectly clear. She tolerates my little YouTube audio exercise down here. Her main editorial contribution is letting me know when it's too loud. She could not care less about this stuff. I don't have a Nate Robinson Tracy-like awesome lady partner walking this journey with me.
My second favorite thing of 2020 was getting to work with you. It was.
What? Her name is Christy? Well, if I had a Christy, I wouldn't have called her Tracy. I don't even have anybody to have a fake conversation with. Well, unsolicited, my wife said it sounded like asterisk, 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 asterisk. And she is somewhat sparing with her bathroom words. In this case, the sub was not hooked up yet, but the sound profile difference is jarring, perhaps exaggerating the negative sentiment. When Sony puts just 3 woofers in a bar and makes huge promises, they are banking really hard on the software promise. If software is enabling more data-rich sound, then it's assisting with sound fidelity. Otherwise, it's very likely making huge compromises on sound fidelity, quality sound fundamentals, nutritious sound, wholesome sound, for the pursuit of spatial effects, even with music. The result here is a disappointing mid-frequency response that delivers sound without enough filling, a sound that really jives best with modern electronic music that is typically rather bass and treble heavy, but really underserves more traditional instrument and vocal-based music. Watching movies, you'll find that this bar can certainly get loud and boomy and crunchy, but leaves you wanting more sound body and less icing. One of the aspects that annoyed me most about the G700 were uncomfortable volume changes between dialogue and action transitions. A punchy or bright sound profile is more prone to these kinds of undesired volume changes. I found myself reaching for the remote to adjust volume much more with Sony. The sub I'd say was adequate, but not really special in any way. Other than the grill, couldn't really find an angle where it shined. I'm being sarcastic. It can make itself known certainly at higher volumes, but its sound did seem to lack shape and agility. I will admit I'm being hypercritical here. I don't think the Sony sound is completely dismissible, but I clearly favor Klipsch's strategy and execution in this matchup. When talking sound, 3 points here for Klipsch.
Pips. 3 points.
Conclusions. Not gonna lie, I was expecting a touch more feel-goods from the Sony. But again, after taking off my super critical hat, I watched a few shows, not hyper-action movies, with the G700. I was satisfied with the sound I was receiving. That is, nothing stuck out so bad that it distracted me. It definitely fulfills its mission as a TV enhancer. On top of this, Sony really stepped up with the codec support, providing eARC and a pass-through, and delivered a solid user experience. Setup was plug and play, the TV remote worked right away in controlling volume. I was always able to play music through Bluetooth without fiddling with the remote. No issue with sound cutouts that plagued rival Samsung flagship bars. If your goal is eARC and lots of audio formats, maybe lots of gaming, and not 3D audio but spacious audio for $600, this might very well be your bar or one to consider seriously. If you're looking for a decent soundbar Atmos experience, the JBL Bar 9.1 is likely your next best stop, though you are looking at around $1,000. If you're looking for the highest quality sound for less than $600, but actually less than $500, the Cinema 600 might be the bar to beat, especially if you're a frequent music listener. Klipsch definitely decided to skimp on the 3D audio train here, even leaving out Dolby Digital Plus, and focused on delivering high-quality sound, giving you 3 rich channels on the bar and a formidable subwoofer. Klipsch limited the size of the promise, but delivered like crazy on that promise. I can get behind that philosophy. Anyway, maybe it's time to wrap this up. Support the channel if you're feeling gracious. Catch you on the next one.
No, I'm doing by myself.